welcome to Wapplewood. I'm Jermoldy Buffalo,
And I'm Papa Ryle.
and this is our Linux podcast.
Indeed. The Linux Wood podcast, one may say. So today we have a few fun things to talk about, and especially we're having a guest that some of you may know come along. Please, everyone, give a warm welcome to Llama.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
So I've heard this is interesting. So everybody knows this is a Linux podcast, but you've come to kind of offer some alternate points of view,
Yes. You mean better points of view, obviously.
like alternate facts.
Mm-hmm. It's okay. I mean, we all understand Linux is not a bad back-end software, but there's a reason that like the majority of the population just doesn't use it, right? It's not very easy to use. People don't understand it. If you try to play a video game, your buddies have to wait about 15 minutes for you to get it set up and fixed and get wine working.
To this
Problem
day, I
is-
know exactly one person who uses Linux, and yeah, getting him to run games was a big issue.
You're not. This is a Linux podcast. You're not supposed to side with him. Come on. The co-host is supposed to be backup. I don't know what you're talking about. I think the issue is that most people they just hate freedom. They're all just they're corporate bootlickers. They can't appreciate the beauty of free and open source software. I think that's the clear issue here.
And is this why you want to enforce a top-down approach on the open source software? You can enforce the freedom to choose your own software.
Exactly. You got it. So yeah. You may call it authoritarian, and it is, but it's for the good of everyone. And if it's for the good of everyone, I think it should be done no matter the cost.
I appreciate your point of view, but I don't like it.
You don't. You don't appreciate my point of view.
No. I do appreciate the irony in it. So truth be told, it might shock people to know that I manage about a dozen Linux servers that are all hosted in the cloud. I mean, isn't that interesting? Like, I don't know how many people, and some of them have custom apps that I have personally written in Python on them. How's that for something people might not know?
I guess, whatever pays the bills, right?
That is pretty much it. It was like I need this very unique piece of software to work at my job, and I'm not willing to pay for a cloud-hosted Windows server because that's expensive.
Windows Server is the funniest joke I've ever heard.
Oh, I know. I know that a good GUI scares you. It's understandable.
I mean, if by good you mean uncustomizable and restrictive.
Well, to be fair, that is by the nature of its existence a GUI. But that's what you learn PowerShell for. Like, you just learn
Well,
PowerShell.
no. You have to understand the correct way to make a GUI is to basically just provide your users with a framework and then require to basically program it all themselves.
Oh, I think they did this back when computers first came out. I remember people had to build their own calculator app.
As you do.
Papa Ryle's over here is like, what? Who did we invite to this thing this week?
Yeah, I don't think you'll be a returning guest. I'm sorry.
Ooh, I see. Back to that heavy-handed top-down approach again.
Dictatorship is the only way.
Well, yeah. I don't, I don't like it, but I guess they did make you the great leader of the tech thread for a reason. So yeah. So if you like Linux so much, how did you get into it? How did you get into Linux? I mean, nobody just accidentally like stumbles into Linux is like, oh yeah, this is a lot of fun.
So this is actually really interesting. I'm not even kidding. The way I got into Linux was straight up building a Linux distribution. And it's really funny how this happened. Now, this might disgust some of you, and for good reason, but it all started on Reddit. My dad actually saw somebody made a post on like the local subreddit for my town saying, hey, anybody want to build a Linux distribution? And I was like, I've never used Linux before, but I like computers. Let's try this out. And then a couple years of indoctrination, and now I'm a free and open source zealot. The Linux distribution never came into anything, but I'm happy I started on it because I learned a lot of stuff.
That is interesting. That is literally diving into the deep end.
And the best part was it was Arch based too. I mean, nobody in the audience will care about that, but
I don't know. I
If
think
you'd
the
like to
technical guys
know,
watch this.
that's probably true.
Doubt most of the audience knows what a Linux distribution is. I don't.
They
Tried to
definitely.
build. He
I'm sure.
tried to build his own Linux operating system. That's the layman's terms.
Exactly.
He decided that instead of like downloading Linux and learning it, he just built a new one without having ever used it. Which is, like I said, diving into the deep end. It's actually kind of impressive. So, did you have coding knowledge before that, or were you just like, let me try
Oh,
this
yeah.
computer thing?
Yeah, I've been. I mean, I think probably I started getting interested in computers because, like, as with most people who like playing video games, I like playing video games, but I literally had just a Mac. You know, you can call Linux bad for playing games, but Mac OS is infinitely worse, right?
That's
So the amount of
fair.
things I had to try to actually get things to run on there basically forced me to learn how computers worked.
That's very fair, especially if it was one of the older Macs. Those things were terabad. I haven't seen. Well, I said that's not true. I saw a Mac the other day, but like it's like so rare that I see them in existence. The MacBooks or the Macs. But I'm also not in those circles. You're in school, aren't you, Papa Riles?
Yeah, in university. Though my course
Do they
is
have?
linked to science space, I don't see many Macs.
Okay, I was gonna say, do you see Macs? Like over here, it's very like if any educational facility is gonna have a bunch of Macs. They've got like a run of the place.
No, my understanding has always been for Macs that they tend to be more for the creative arts, just for the arts programs and stuff on there. And again, I've not
Yeah.
really been in the circle.
I like to dunk on the creative arts like discussion about this because when you get up into like the really high end video production, it's all back to Linux and or Windows servers.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you want to run a super high-end system, like, what are you going to find that's running Mac OS? Like, maybe you can run the Mac, what was it? The Mac Pro Tower thing, but why?
Yeah, they just straight up stopped like trying to support that kind of thing. They just gave up on it. They weren't gonna win that market. I do appreciate that we can all band together to dunk on Mac right about now.
No, I think that's perfectly fair. It's yeah, what's the reason to use like Apple things?
Because you like spending money. You like throwing money into a fire.
Okay, but at least that's like fun. And
Well,
also,
Macs are pretty.
I think it's also a
Honestly,
felony, but
Might be a felony, but in the same vein, I mean, it just make owning a MacBook a felony. Like that'll be okay, you know. Heavy-handed top-down approaches. We're all on the same page, right?
I agree
yeah.
with this completely.
On a related note to school stuff, whilst I find that I can't really tell what other operating systems people are using, one thing I know that has come up is in software usage on operating systems. And Buffalo, I'd like to ask, what word processing or document creation software do you use? Because I feel like you'd be the kind of guy to use LaTeX.
Yeah, I do use Overleaf for like presentations and things sometimes. I was actually required to for the internship I did. But if I'm just like typing a paper or something like that, I tend to use OnlyOffice. Nobody has ever heard of. Like it's even more obscure than LibreOffice, which also nobody has ever heard of. I find it mostly keeps support with like Microsoft Office stuff, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah. I had to use LaTeX one of my maths courses, and that still confuses me.
I mean, who doesn't want to basically use a full programming language to make a document?
Indeed. Got to set up several levels of things, and somehow that translates into, oh, look, you now have a matrix.
I just like to make some commentary here. How bad? Like, what levels have we sunk on this podcast where word processors are a topic of discussion? Like, I know, tech stuff can bore some people, but when we're unironically discussing word processors,
Yes. I I think for the sake of not losing half of our 12 viewers that we might have, we should change topics. You're on to something. And with that, perhaps, I know you went to Germany recently, we should bring in our German expert. Obviously, I mean, he's like literally, it's like two letters off of German anyways, so we can bring in Jerma. Welcome,
The
Jerma,
reason-
to the
Howdy,
podcast.
howdy. The
I'd like to clarify that the reason we're bringing him in on now is because he just arrived.
yeah, the German expert showing up late.
That's
Oh,
not a
brother. It's not the your best. Howdy y'all, howdy y'all. We're talking
G'day.
about computers, right? Linux.
We were talking about computers. We were saying though that talking about computers is probably not the best thing for our, I guess our market
yeah.
share or market
Yeah.
growth.
I tried working on Linux and a VM for a very specific task I need to get done. And oh brother, this stuff sucks. I don't know why I signed up for it, but I'm gonna keep working on it. Windows.
We should have
alright.
waited 15 more minutes to start the podcast. I could have used you earlier.
Oh,
Yeah,
brother,
I don't think Jerma will be a returning guest.
PapaLlama, I do not understand how you manage to stay sane working in IT. Like, this stuff I'm just seeing, like, it throws the same command error 3 times, and Google doesn't help. The first 3 results on Google doesn't help, and I'm on the verge of just taking a break and leaving.
Well, that's why I'm not a Linux specialist.
I suppose.
There's plenty of Windows forums and support out there.
I mean, when in doubt, what's the general coding solution? Find someone else who did it first and gratefully take their work.
That's so true, by the way. In that line of thinking, real fast, we always joke about, like, who taught the Indian coders on YouTube who taught us.
The bad thing about this is that unfortunately I am working on something which is a controlled software. The online tutorials for it kind of suck.
Controlled software? Does that mean you have to pay for software in Linux? Say it ain't so.
No. I need to. I can only access this software on the behest of the American government, and I can only do so as a U.S. person. If I was not an American citizen, I could not access this software.
Jerma is SpyX family confirmed.
Brother.
Jerma's in his Fed phase.
Jerma has always been in the Fed phase.
Jerma invented it.
Jerma, you keep like data on everybody in the entire server. I mean,
We don't need to get into this. Anyway, speaking of keeping data on stuff, Germans. What are we doing with that? We were segueing to the Germans.
We were, and just like good tech nerds, we went right back to the nerdy stuff that scares off our audience. We were segmenting to the Germans because our Germoldy Buffalo friend just went to Germany. So I'm sure he has plenty of tales to tell or stories to regale us with.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like you would have, jokes aside, I feel like out of all the people on the server, you've probably got knowledge in this area.
I think the ones living in Germany may edge me out. But yes. Buffalo, what part of Germany?
I mostly was in Heidelberg.
For
was-
us laymen, where is Heidelberg in general? Like, what major city can I put that around?
This north or south,
man.
Jerma?
I was going to name the state, but then I figured that probably wouldn't help any. But yeah, generally, southwestern-ish Germany.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it would have been perfect to name the state, because then we would have all been like, uh-huh.
Yes.
Around, to the east or west of Ulm.
Ulm is a
Doesn't
name I
know.
recognize.
Ulm, yes, there's a very beautiful cathedral in Ulm. It's Lutheran, unfortunately, but it's very beautiful. There's one of the first things I did when I started playing with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 is I went to Ulm to see the cathedral, and it was flat because they had not yet modeled Germany. Well, not the German landmarks.
Ulm is also a very big meme in the Europa Universalis forums,
Oh, why?
because you start as Ulm in the year 1444 and you do a world conquest. Because why not? Ulm world conquest. Apparently some dude documented his first world conquest as Ulm, and it became a meme.
Oh yes, I pulled up a photo of Ulm. The cathedral is basically, it's the world's tallest church, allegedly. And it's just like towering, like the closest thing is like an apartment building way off in the distance, and even that only comes halfway up. Yes,
Pretty cool sounding.
530 feet tall. Finished in 1890.
There are no tangents on this podcast.
No
Yeah,
tangents.
so-
We never go on any of them.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
try
it
and
is-
not embarrass myself completely with my geography knowledge. But I'm going to take a stab at the state that Heidelberg is in. Is it in Westphalia?
No.
Alright.
Need that meme where it's like everyone throw your head back and laugh.
It's Baden-Württemberg. It's also, I would not call this Southwest Germany. When people say Southwest Germany to me, I tend to think of the area around the Black Forest, south and west of Stuttgart.
I mean, I think it is objectively southern and western. I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, to the center of Germany, but like you would also say that Texas is southern and western to the center of the United States, kind of.
Some listen, if
Some
did
parts of it would.
Jermoldy Buffalo did the locals consider themselves Southwestern?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That is a good question. I mean, I don't know that I asked anybody.
I
That was
just don't know
that.
if they
That
would
was
ever describe it about that.
It's right on the Rhine near Frankfurt, well, between Frankfurt and Stuttgart.
Are we talking south or north of Bavaria?
West
about
of Bavaria.
yeah.
Bavaria, like, is a very large region.
Yeah.
So what did you do while you were in Germany? Was it Ulm? No, it was something else. You were the one going on about
Heidelberg.
Ulm. Heidelberg. What did
Wait,
you do?
Heidelberg?
What did you do while you were in Heidelberg? Were you there for like just for fun or for education? Is the beer as good as they say it is?
So yeah, I went there. What?
Were you allowed to drink the beer? I can't remember.
Yeah. I'm. Well, what do you have to be like just 16 and I mean I'm 19, so
Alright.
definitely. So what did I do? It was a school trip, and so of course everything had to be educational. I learned far more about the Holy Roman Empire than I ever wanted to know, and like Frederick V especially.
Oh boy.
But we saw a bunch of like museums. We saw the castle there in Heidelberg, but there was also quite a bit of free time, and I mostly spent it just like walking around the city. Reading Dostoevsky as one does in Germany for some reason. But a lot of my classmates instead decided to spend it drinking. Like that was their primary activity, I think, that they did. But I decided in most cases not to join them.
Mm.
So yeah, that was interesting. But it is certainly a beautiful city. I would recommend anybody go there, and it's just kind of nice to have somewhere that you can just walk on the streets as opposed and have public transport as opposed to having to drive everywhere.
Uh-oh.
That's
We're
one
gonna
of the
get the
things-
urbanites. Our internet viewership is gonna grow.
That's one of the things. Germany did not do very well. That's one of the things they're bad at. Did you use a Deutschbahn? The
Yeah,
train
I did.
system? Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Or did they arrive on time?
Rarely. But here's the thing: it's coming from the perspective of somebody, living in the U.S. It's not like it's late; it just doesn't exist.
Anything's on time in that scenario.
Exactly.
Oh, by the way, something that's happened since our last episode. Special someone in the team got their little promotion to Crusader Lord.
Yes, I went to bed. Literally, I went to bed and I woke up to being pinged about it. That tells you how early I go to bed. I was like, when did this happen? It literally must have been like the last post I made before I went to bed that night.
Well, now you're a grassless red, a darker red.
I know. It's scary. It's a deeper shade of red. I feel like that color that's like the color they say the plant color. I can't even remember what it's called anymore. It's just fading from my memory.
What a shame, what a shame. You know, one day you're gonna be golden.
Wait,
Like me.
I feel like this is if when I become gold, I'm gonna have the same realization when I looked at like how many hours I had put into Dota 2, and I said I'm never booting this game up again.
Dota 2. I was actually recently playing a bit of War Thunder, and I was like, and I looked at my hours, and I'm like, oh, only 1,850. That's less than I thought.
See,
My money
you guys,
was on that you got caught up playing War Thunder.
Pardon?
You guys, Gemma, you had levels of only 1800.
Only.
When I first got EU4 on Steam, I was shocked at how fast I got to 1,000 hours.
I think yeah.
When
The
you
thing
said you played EU earlier, I knew you spent a lot of time in that game.
EU4, CK3, gotta conquer the world somehow.
my top thing on Steam is about 2,000 hours, and that kind of a cheat because it's an application that I would run alongside other stuff. But I think right now, War Thunder may actually be my most played game. I either love games or I hate games. Didn't know if you got that?
What game
Yeah,
do you hate?
I get that.
Like Crusader Kings 2, I have 12.8 hours of playing it. Crusader Kings 3, I have like well over 100, 200.
I
I
don't know
think-
that games other than TF2 exist.
Yeah, I think TF2 is either my most played game or second most played. I think EU4 took it over. I don't know.
That's one of the games I could never quite get into. Team Fortress 2. I tried it out once. It was a miserable experience, and I've never understood how people enjoyed it.
It's the world's greatest war-themed hat simulator.
Exactly.
I've heard I've heard all. I've seen
Online.
all the memes. I've seen all the memes. Somehow I dodged that game. I never actually played it.
It sounds like CS:GO with more whimsy.
It's
Yes.
not that. How could you say that?
The little videos they make are great. It could be you. It could be me. It could be any one of us.
There's also I saw one of those videos about how this one item got added incorrectly, and it was like a massive scandal, and a bunch of people got the item when they weren't supposed to, and then the entire Team Fortress 2 community was split over how to deal with this item, and I'm like, wow, do you guys not have anything better to do?
Welcome to
No,
the
no,
community.
they don't.
Well, in all fairness, this is talking about things which are potentially worth real life hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, but I mean,
Hundreds
like,
of dollars is lowballing it. Have you seen the price golden frying pans go for?
how
That's
much?
like 6,000.
Yeah, it's thousands of USD. It's crazy.
I think the most expensive War Thunder tanks are like several $1,000s.
See,
And, like,
I
even
can't
then-
understand any of this. I understand it exists, and that there are people out there who would buy these things, but not in my wildest dreams. Even when I was a young single guy, or when I was married to my wife and we were dinks, like I just can't. I don't get it. I don't get it. Like thousands of dollars. There are so many real physical things I can have in my hand for that amount of money. I just don't know.
That's why I've never spent any money on War Thunder. Like, it's a game. It's a free-to-play game. If I paid $60 up front, great, I'm fine with doing that. I'm not going to pay for a subscription model. I'm not going to pay for little in-game items. I'm going to do this free, and free I have done it.
I have spent, I think, less than $10 total on TF2. A bit more. But I have not
I
gotten
think it's
to
about the same for me.
Sorry?
I think I was gonna say I think it's about the same for me at this point in time. Although who knows what happens in the future.
I've bought, I think, one key and a couple of Tour of Duty tickets and one or two taunts.
That's one of the
No.
things I just don't quite get. Loot boxes, paid loot boxes, where you have to actually put up something to get a key for, are just beyond me to some degree.
It's just
It was
gambling.
put in there. It was put in there to teach gambling to children, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah, but just give them a casino. Come on, don't give them this watered down stuff.
A casino's too
That's a
obvious.
good
You'll
take.
you'll never get it past the regulators if you just call it a casino. You need to have in real life loot boxes.
I think we could totally do.
But
Well, to be quite frank, I think these regulators are being a bit unfair, and the children yearn for the mine, the children yearn for the loot boxes.
So,
Otherwise,
in a perfect utopia, do the children go and work like a 10-hour shift at the mines, then immediately go to like child-themed casinos to gamble it all away?
I mean, as long as I own them, sure.
Oh, that's perfect.
You know, when I was young, they just called child-filled casinos Chuck E. Cheese. All right, you like did the little like games where you tried to win tickets, and then you went and turned your tickets in for something that cost a lot less than the coins cost you to buy.
that's
Well,
how all
that's
those
That's-
like arcades and carnival games work though. It's
That
like
I know.
you Google it online and it's like, oh yeah, this costs them like $2.
there used to be arcades where you'd actually play for money.
Yeah, they had those. They still have one in Missouri somewhere at a place called Lambert's Cafe, and you drop the little quarter down, and it like goes down, and it pushes other quarters, and like you can knock off a bunch of quarters eventually if you're good enough at it, and get like
Oh,
all your money back. But you just have like 100 quarters now.
what I'm talking about is like you play an arcade game against a bunch of other people, and everyone puts in money to bet, and the winner takes it all.
Ah, huh.
Uh, it's out somewhere on the East Coast, in one of the parts of the East Coast that people forget about.
Would be pretty intense actually. Like Tekken, you play like Tekken, but for real money, be nuts.
You
Tekken
know,
was
you
a
can do
real
that. You
money.
can do that at home.
Oh, is it true?
But it's not the same if it's not real, right? Isn't that how it works?
I mean, Tekken is like one of the games I would pay not to play Tekken like competitively like that. I think if you're going to be
Mm.
doing
It
money
could be any
games,
game. I use Tekken because it was the first thing that popped in my head.
yeah, but I think it'd just be so much better if you were betting on like Mario Kart.
Now,
See, I
obviously,
suck at
Rocket
Mario
League.
Kart.
Yeah, Mario Kart,
Yeah,
Rocket League, or even just like
I'm even worse at Rocket League than Mario Kart. So
Well, that's perfect.
But not embracing the spirit of randomness and going with Mario Party.
mm,
you know what? Forget all this. We need to go all the way back, and we need to be gambling on the old arcade games like it's called like Bubble
Pong,
Bopper. No,
Pong.
no, no, no. Well, that
Bubble
Pong is an
Bobble.
old arcade game. They're called
You
Pabble
can just do
Bopper or something.
Pac-Man.
Mm.
Man, yeah, that's a game. That's a high intensity game right there.
I'm just thinking about.
It's funny every time I do every time I'm up here doing this, I am about 3 feet to my left is my arcade machine.
How's that going for you?
It plays arcade games. I got it. It
Really?
didn't. It does now. Yeah, it's super cool. I've got a goal Mortal Kombat Champions. Yeah, no, not Mortal Kombat. Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo Champions Edition board. Pretty cool. I feel like a boss, except for the fact that like I have friends who are all super nerds and beat me up in it. I own the arcade machine and they beat me up in it.
I think that should be disallowed.
That should be yeah. I should home field advantage.
No, I think it's only fair.
Only fair.
If you own it, you should
Well,
be the president.
I should. Yes, I should. Especially because there's not that many people walking around with arcade machines in their house anymore.
Exactly. The others must be cheating.
It must be, yeah. It's more like they've got like little there's an inherent fighting game knowledge you get if you're a big enough competitive fighting game nerd that transcends all the fighting games. And so scrubs like me who just really like arcade machines, who happen to get one and a few boards, we're not like doing that, and so they can come in and they can just beat you up evidently.
So hear me out. Hear me out. So if you win against the owner, I think you lose a finger, and so eventually you can't win anymore.
Are you? That's just the mafia.
I think my
just what
friends.
the mafia
I think
does.
that's also how you lose friends.
I mean,
So we're just
no.
going very all in with the casino. If you're winning too much, they throw you out.
Yeah.
I do
I
appreciate Jermoldi Buffalo's adherence to his heavy-handed top-down approaches. Truly, he is consistent, if nothing else.
I lament the fact that Moldy Buffalo gave me a bit of help, and I promised not to be mean to him for a month because there was
You
so
can
many
be mean
things
to
that
me. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Go
No,
ahead.
no, I promised it. I promised it. I'm a man of my word. The
No, I lose you. I lose you from your promise.
No, that's not how it works. I maintain my promise. The only way you can loose me from it is if it's in writing and you burn the paper, and even then.
And you have to do
Anyway,
the funny black spot dance from the Pirates of the Caribbean's movie. That's the other part of it.
yeah. Speaking of the new black spot, have you guys seen the germ ban, the gerban, as it were?
I
Yes.
saw something referenced about that. I don't even know what that is. What is the Jerban?
Well,
So
it's Germageddon.
basically, late one day, I said I used Germese a bit too much around base, and they said, Germa, you know what? I'm going to ban this. And I'm like, no. And then he banned it, so I could not say any Ger word except for Jeremy and my own name.
Oh, you can't, huh?
And then, the very important thing, Late expanded this to all DVCs. And then he implemented a trigger where all moderators can type yes Germa and no Germa. And if no Germa is triggered, no DVC can say any word that had JER in it.
By the way, this is how I know Lace really enjoys his job. Like he genuinely enjoys his job. This like goes out of his way to make this just to torture you.
Ah, bother. And the worst thing is that it just, I think that this is going to make Jeremy more popular than before. Because every time I see the No Jerma turned on, all the DVCs are like, oh, this is tyranny. We demand our right to speak Jermese. And I'm
We
like,
can
you guys
call it
ain't
the
fair.
Jermizend effect.
The Jermaican effect.
Literally 1984.
Yeah.
That's what mods are good for. 1984.
Jeremy is
Speaking
double plus ungood.
Speaking of 1984, I want to say thank you guys for having us on the podcast. It was very, very nice of our hosts, Jermoldy Buffalo and Papa Riles, to have us on. And but I think our
Thank you.
time has come to an end, and I look forward to listening to the Linux podcast next, 2 weeks from now after this one airs. And it's going to make really great soothing noises when I'm trying to go to sleep. It's going to be great for putting me to bed.
Wow. Anyway, on that note, I've been Jerma.
What are you doing? This is we're the guests. They have to go out.
Nope,
I think
nope.
you're
I'm
confused.
doing this. I'm doing this. I've been Jerma.
I've been
No, no,
Papa
no, no.
Ryle.
And I've been Jermoldy Buffalo.
And I've been Llama.
Thank you and good night.